Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Blue Abroad Saturdays, 3rd of July. Hope you're enjoying wherever you're watching, particularly the people that are watching that are currently still in the midst of lockdown. We're all thinking of you. I am joined by a very, very esteemed guest. He is a very well-known Carlton man, but most importantly, he's the greatest Supercoach player of all time. Alexi James, also known as Lek Dog, mate. It is a pleasure to have you on.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, Riley. I'm definitely not the best Supercoach player of all time. I give the best advice for sure, but I do not follow it myself. Just happy to be here again, talking on the Blue Abroad channel about the Carlton Football Club. We've got a very exciting game ahead of us tonight, which we weren't sure about for a while.
We do. I mean, we've 2 in a row, mate, potentially, and we'll get into some of the other semantics a little later. But I heard you were actually on television last week. Before we continue on.
Yep.
Yeah. I've actually, for those who didn't see it, here we are. Just look to the bottom right now.
That was me just letting.
Did you get your Patrick Cripps there?
Yeah, I was doing a bit of Paddy Cripps, Razor Ray. I think you forgot your glasses. He was not having a very good night. Old Razor. Lee Fisher also struggled a bit last week, and I let them know, and I kind of knew I was going to be on TV at some point the way I was going. So, it's what happens at the footy. We get excited.
As someone who's been doing similar things like that for a long time, it's wonderful to be on TV and laugh at yourself after it. But no, he didn't have a good week last week, did he, Ray? Just quietly.
No, awful. And the thing I was letting him know is that he was just guessing because he wasn't in position to see what was actually happening. So put the whistle away. Don't just make it up. It's all right, Razor.
Exactly right. Carlton versus Fremantle. We know what happened last week. So Thursday night changed the circumstances a little bit, didn't it? That was one of the biggest shocks of the season. I got a couple of texts. There were some ladder predictors going around. There were some people talking a little bit about looking at the Kool-Aid. Nonetheless, whatever you think of it, it's going to be a massive game tonight against the side. Although our overall history, they've had more wins than us. Recent times, we've won our last 3 against them. We've got a little bit of the wood over them, I reckon.
Yeah, we won the last 3. I actually kind of wanted this game to be over there. I just feel like we get up and about against them at Optus. They did win the 3 games before that, and I've got that horrible memory. I don't know if it was in that bunch of 3 games, but we were at Marvel Stadium, and it was halftime, and we're down like 70-1 or something like that, and that's stuck in my memory, and I'm always fearful coming up against Freo. But me and you were going through the numbers, and like, statistically, I think we match up really well against them this year, and we obviously got the win in round 3, but somehow, and maybe I'm ignorant, but they're 2 games ahead of us on the ladder, which is the stat that matters, but it's the stat that probably surprised me the most.
Yeah, it does a little bit, particularly it's another one of those sides where you look at their stage of development compared to Carlton, and you sort of think, just looking at the teams on paper and whatnot, they're probably a year behind us. There's no doubt they are building nicely with what they're doing. They're a well-drilled side. Justin Longmuir's got a good ship running over there. They've had their injury struggles this year as well. I think there was a stat earlier in the year until a couple of weeks ago. There was they're the first side in the first 12 weeks to have more than 10 players on their injury list every week for the first 12 rounds, which is just crazy. It's interesting how they're going over there with that. What you were talking about the stats a little bit. What sort of, first off, what do you see as a general advantage, and how much can we take out of round 3? Can we take much out of it, or because it's a bit different, personnel sides are going a bit differently to them, particularly Fremantle? Is it like a fresh slate, in your opinion?
Oh, I think every game's a fresh slate. I don't believe that we really carry heaps of form week to week. We seem to be a flip of the coin. Sam Walsh obviously dominated, but I think that was probably Paddy Cripps' second best game of the year. So if he can get up and about, help us in the centre, and we can win clearances, that'd be lovely. We haven't won clearances very much this year. Doc out hurts. We've had a fair bit of change in the playing list from that week to this week. And for them, same. Like, there's a lot of players missing. But the interesting thing for me is I'm looking at the teams that have been named. We've named an older team and a more experienced team, so there really should be no excuses here. And I guess for me, the key is going to be, who does Ed Kerno run with? Are we going to play him as an actual tagger this week, and are we going to play him on Brayshaw, which is probably the guy that needs to be tagged? It seems like an obvious one for me, and then we just got to watch guys like Chera and see how they go. But for me, it's just about getting some attention into Brayshaw and not turning it over. One stat that we're much worse at than them this year is turnovers. So we lead it. We're better in just about every statistical category, but turnovers is a killer for us. So we need to be really careful with our kicks, particularly going inside 50.
Yeah, absolutely. I think turnovers has been a massive issue. We've talked about defensive transition a lot on here. Everyone has. That's been another issue for Carlton. And they've got some runners. They've got some really good runners that can exploit us. And I think the thing that will suit Fremantle tonight, in terms of, we talk about ground dimensionals and it's nominal, but the Optus was basically made as a perfect replica of the MCG. So they know how to play that sort of ground in terms of size very well. Whereas Marvel's a little bit different. What did you think of the changes this week? We were sort of brainstorming earlier, like a few days ago before they came out. We were sort of thinking, Williams, Murphy, and Doherty would come out. Newman was the obvious one. I was sort of hoping for Ramsey and Honey. They went with Williamson and Casbolt. Now I can sort of get it in a way, experiencing Casbolt's second chop out ruck to try combat Darcy, but it didn't inspire me. What are your thoughts there?
Yes, I think you could say the same thing for me. It didn't inspire me. I guess the logic behind Williamson coming in on that half back line is that they're not fighting. They're not going to fall into the trap of naming Sam Petreski-Seaton at half back again. I think with Stocker and Seaton in the team and Williamson, they're doing that to cover Doc without costing us SBS in the midfield. And they're going to be wanting more than he delivered last week in the midfield, despite how good he was in the first half. He did drop off. And then Casbolt, look, I didn't think we'd see him again. I thought they got him to his, I think it was 150 milestone earlier in the year. And I thought that might be the last we saw of him. He played okay in the VFL a couple of weeks ago and then got suspended. I don't know. Look, it's going to be for structure, isn't it? They come in, they play him at centre-half forward. Hopefully he can take some of the heat off Harry. He needs to take marks early. He needs to convert early. We know if he doesn't convert early, he really struggles. But like you, I really thought we were going to see some combination of Honey, Parks, and Sam Ramsey, but we didn't. So one of them will be emergency, probably Honey, you'd think. But I thought it was very, very strange. But we've been perplexed by every team selection this year. What did you think?
Yeah, we have. I think it's I think what a lot of people have sort of summed up is that David Teague in his time, he's got his guys he trusts. Levi Casbolt is one of those guys he's trusting. Now Tom Williamson has fallen out of favour this year. And I've been a massive Willow fan. That's probably been, for me, one of the biggest mysteries of this season. What the hell has happened to Tom Williamson? I would have liked for him to come in with better form than 13 possessions and butchering the football, but you can't choose these things. One key difference from that round 3 clash is that Harry's going to have a much tougher night tonight. Freo, if you remember, they were depleted defensively, and he ended up taking advantage. He had 12 shots on goal. Now he's got a bloke who has been injured, for a fair bit of times in his career, but when he's up and about, he's probably one of the 3 to 4 best defenders in the AFL, and that's Alex Pearce. It's going to be a bit of a tougher night for Harry. So what do you think Carlton can do to find different sort of avenues to goal outside of Had? Because, it's almost like the Favola effect at time. When he's on, we just go and feed him. A bit too much, I think.
Yeah, well, we know what's going to happen today. We're going to look to him 9 times out of 10. We're going to kick it and hope he takes a spectacular mark 2 or 3 times, maybe 4. He's going to do that, and he'll probably convert. I think it's cliched, right? We got to lower the eyes, but I really think we've got to. If we're bringing Levi Casbolt into this game, we've got to involve him. We've got to make them think that he's a threat so that teams, they'll have to defend him and maybe Harry get a bit of a chop out. Jack Silvani hasn't been hitting the scoreboard. I'd love to see him hit the scoreboard. He's had some chances, but he's not converting, so I'm not counting on him for goals. So I think it needs to come through Casbolt. Martin taking some strong marks, as he did last week. He was in phenomenal form in the second half last week. And then hopefully Eddie Betts can sneak in. But for me, it's not going to Harry every time, like you said. We play him like Fev. We go to him 99% of the time. And sometimes it works, which is great. And he kicks 7 and we win. And sometimes it doesn't. So, yeah. And our mids need to hit the scoreboard. Last week, that run where Dow kicks a goal, Cripper kicks a goal, and Williams kicks a goal. That's huge for us. We don't normally score through the midfield. We need someone to find the scoreboard from the guts. And I really hope it's Paddy Dow. I thought he was good last week. I just wanted to say one thing on the team selection, which is a salient point because I forgot Zach Williams had been suspended. All year I've been saying the club's just picking like the next best player on the list, not the next best player in that position that's available. This week, Doc and Williams goes out, and arguably, despite his poor form, Williamson is that next best halfback flanker on the list. So I will take back a little bit of the heat I delivered before and say maybe they're actually sticking to some sort of selection structure there. But I'm still very, very fucking nervous.
Yeah, I think we all are. One other thing I wanted to cover with you, I'm interested tonight in how we're going to match up on their key forwards. Despite no Taberner, which does hurt Fremantle, Josh Treacy is a bit of a presence in his first year for Fremantle. He's a bit of a bullocker. And Rory Lobb, he's anything. You don't know what you're going to get with Rory Lobb. Good Rory, bad Rory. What matchup? Who's going to take who, you think? Do you think Jones will take Lobb, or would you give him to Wiedering, or what are you going to do? It's probably, I'm thinking Wiedering to Treacy at this sort of stage, just because that looks like a bit of a better sort of profile.
Yeah, I think they'll send Jones to Lobb. I think Wiedering can be a bit more damaging by foot, and I think he's got more opportunity to get off the leash a bit against Treacy, or I'm not sure how you spell his name, Treacy. Jones just needs to play the first half really defensively against Lobb, and then as the game wears on, players get tired and the delivery starts getting worse, as inevitably does. I think that's where he'll accelerate. He'll start taking those up the ground marks and getting really involved. But I think for the first half, his job is a shutdown job on Lobb, and Wiedering gets off the chain a little bit if possible. And if it's not working, I hope the club's not afraid to switch it up, which I feel like they don't do a lot of with Jones and Wiedering. Yeah, I think that's a string that we can pull and not be too stressed about.
Yeah, it's one thing that we've seen a few times. I think the Port Adelaide game last year in particular comes to mind when Jones was really struggling on Dixon and they kept that matchup the whole game. It's something that's happened a few times. Before we get our first guest on, I just wanted to bring up something. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and I don't necessarily think this. But there was a couple of good points made during the week from some people. Let's start with the Zach Williams one. Now, I do not condone that. I don't have a problem with the suspension. I think you can't have a problem with the suspension. I have a problem though when absolutely nothing's brought up about Tom Stewart or Selwood, really, with the incident for the exact same thing. And then even the next sort of thing, and someone brought this up, and it's a little bit more of a stretch, but I can see the argument, right? So Plowman against Hawthorn, he got 2 weeks for what was a fair, that's a football collision, right? He wasn't going to bump him, right? But there's nothing because of insufficient force brought up about Darcy Fogarty coming 4 seconds too late into the back of Wiedering. Wiedering's down. I'm not saying there's a bias from the AFL. I'm not suggesting anything like that, but I think it's just curious how sometimes the media portrays that sort of stuff. But what are your thoughts on that?
Look, we get clicks as a club, so it's good
Absolutely.
when bad things happen to us. We get a little bit of positivity when we sign a player, but it very quickly turns to, we've overpaid, blah, blah, blah. So people like us being in the news, and the news is a pretty negative thing, the mainstream news. But look, we'll talk specifics. The Williams one, it's a suspension. You can't slam a bloke's head into the ground. But you're right, Stewart, that should have been a suspension. So that probably should have been a suspension. Things aren't looked at. I don't know what the process is, because it's clear as day that they're the same action. We've seen Buddy Franklin hip and shouldered into I think it was Nick Newman when he was on the ground. Nothing happened from that. Earlier in the year, we saw Gibbons got taken late and high by Harbrow. There's just been a lot of instances where it just doesn't get followed up. I don't know. Maybe other clubs follow it up behind closed doors and it gets looked at. I'm not sure of the process. It's very interesting that it seems to consistently happen to us. Maybe it happens to other clubs, but they just don't do the same research and don't have the same fans out there that are making highlight videos of all this stuff. But it's clear as day that there does seem to be different rules for some and rules for others.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. It's just it's one of the interesting things at the moment that we're sort of observing, and I think outside of that, whatever you think, I think Zach Williams, he gets a little bit of white line fever. That's not the first time he's done that this year, so it's probably something he just needs to curtail in a little.
I honestly don't mind it, Riley. It sucks that he's not playing, but we don't have someone. It's like him and Liam Stocker are like the only guys in the club that seem to have a bit of fire in him, and when he's on song and he's doing that, I love it. Yeah. And it seems to be when he's playing well that he's getting angry. So obviously I don't want him suspended, but toe the line if you're going to play well.
100% agree. First guest of the morning. It is the great Pom/Scotsman who knows all things about Yorkshire puddings, Andy Robertson, Carlton, and just anything random in general with life. Pommy, how are you, good sir?
I was going to say you maybe sound like the Oracle there. Jesus.
Well, I mean, you are the Oracle. I mean, if you didn't watch if Pommy and Oz, make sure you go have a follow of it. He did a video the other day where he became Mystic Pom, so you are a bit of an Oracle around here.
Well, I like a bit of a dress up. What can I say? I mean, today I'm going out with my lovely wife for lunch. As you can see, I've got a bit of chest fungus out. So I mean, we're really going for it today. We're going for it today. You're seeing Pom when he scrubs up.
You look gorgeous, mate.
You do look gorgeous. I was going to say it's the Blue Abroad on Monday night as well. You're in a full suit jacket and everything.
Mate, I put the effort in. Like this morning, you had a guest drop out, and Blue Abroad HQ, we've got a big red button that you break the glass if you need an emergency guest, and here he is.
What are your feelings for tonight, mate? I know you did your preview yesterday. It's a bit of a nervy one for Carlton, I think.
Well, I mean, I hate to say it. I feel like I've recycled this phrase since round 2. And it's a must-win game for Carlton. I love saying that at the moment. But I think it's one of them games that if you actually look at it in its core fundamentals, you are coming up against a side that handball is their friend. He built the Collingwood game plan when they were playing well. They utilised the short kick and then looked to attack with the handball. And that spells danger for Carlton because that is the antichrist of our zonal system. But if you look at the teams head-to-head, you look at all the core stats, Carlton should win this one. So that's one of them ones that it worries you, doesn't it? I'm always more worried when I'm going into a game and I'm looking at the core data and the measurements and saying, Carlton should win this one.
Yeah, I think we're both in the same boat. Lekdog and I were talking a little bit before about the stats and what we can sort of exploit in some of the matchups. Alexi, there's probably not too many people here because a lot of people, obviously Victorian, watch Fremantle too much. They're a bit of a, and I mean this in the most respectful way possible, but for the last little while they've been quite irrelevant. In the grand scheme of things for the AFL after, that 2015 run. So what do, for the people that don't watch them, what do Fremantle do well and what can we watch for them tonight?
Yeah, look, I think Pommy nailed it. They're a handball heavy side. They love to get chains of possessions together to score. I think they're one of the higher, possessions per score club in the AFL. Look, they've got a lot of these young talented midfielders that play to their strengths. A lot of that is handballing, and then I'm honestly not sure how they score goals, because Walters used to score about 8 goals a game against us, and he's had about 4 shots at goal this year. So I don't know what's going there. They'll throw 5 forward at points, and he'll try and kick a couple. He'll miss from 25 out straight in front a few times tonight, and then he'll snap a miraculous one to put him up. But the amazing thing for them is, despite all of their youth and developing players, is David Mundy at 467 years old is still their best player, and he's running through dominating game after game. So I'm actually a little worried about I thought he was retired, David Mundy, and he's a bloke that, I don't know, maybe Paddy Dow can learn something off him, because he's got a wealth of experience.
They're so athletic. One aspect we haven't brought up, and I'll put this to both of you. There is a very exciting young ruck duel tonight. Sean Darcy is probably the most improved player in the competition. Period. Not just ruckman, but player. The last 12 months, you sort of saw signs of it last year, that he was going to come on. And this year he's just really exploded onto the scene. And I mean, his last 10 minutes last week against Collingwood were outstanding. He probably won Fremantle the game in the end against Monday. Pommy, I'll start with you. How do you see that ruck battle going? And what if you were Tom DeCay, what do you need to look out for when playing Sean Darcy? Because they're different ruckmen. They're not the same. They're completely different.
Well, I think the wonderful thing about Sean Darcy is he looks like the kind of guy that you meet down the pub that tells you that if it wasn't for an ankle injury when he was 16, he would have been the next big thing. He doesn't really look like a sportsman, does he, old Darcy? I mean, I'd probably say that in a shirtless competition, I'd probably beat him. But it's a weird one, because Sean Darcy, and you see, this is where I draw stigma with Levi Casbolt coming in, because last week we saw TDK against Riley O'Brien, and effectively Riley O'Brien is a likeable Sean Darcy. That's the only difference. He's big, he's burly, he throws you around. Darcy's kind of like a Mumford that doesn't get caught. So the way that he's going to beat him is just using his agility and trying to drag him around the ground with him. When you see Darcy get beat, genuinely the ruckman try and get him around the ground, get him working. He's going to be very good, though. If you stand toe-to-toe with him, he'll win that battle. But if you drag him around and you move him around the ground, Carlton are wonderful at working to Pitternet, who wins all the hit-outs, bottom 3 in the comp at hit-outs to advantage. So our midfield doesn't work with hit-outs to advantage. They're used to being offset. So for me, TDK's got to drag him around the ground and take away that option behind the ball and really stifle him around the ground.
How about you? Pommy summed it up well, but how about you?
Oh, no, I'm really excited. We in the Supercoach game, we call Sean Darcy the next Brodie Grundy, because a lot of his stats match up. I will say this, though. The most improved player in the AFL is Sam Walsh. Last year to this year, his stats are crazy, but he doesn't really count because he was awesome last year. TDK, look, I agree, drag him around the ground. I think if TDK can get a few more possessions, I like what he does below his knees, particularly, he causes a lot of clearances with his second efforts. So if he can get a few more touches, I'd be happy. But look, he played really well last week. I don't know. Is Casbolt in to go up against Lobb when TDK and Sean Darcy are resting? Is that why he's in the team? I'm not totally sure. I'm backing in my boy Tom DeConning to take the 4 points, but Sean Darcy's going to have 30 hitouts today, so we just got to do our best to beat them at the fall of the ball.
We do. I think I think probably Levi we mentioned a couple of times was brought in for that ruck representation, but Freo defensively are much taller today. In terms of their style, Griffin Logue who was playing on Hazard is now probably going to be their second or third tall. I've got a comment here from a Blue Abroad faithful, from the good old Paolo, who will be up and about this morning because his wonderful Italians beat Belgium 2-1. at the Euros. So Giorgio Chiellini and Leonardo Bonucci to set up our defensive structure tonight. Lorenzo Insigne alongside Harry Mackay. He's a big Italian man, isn't he, Paolo? He's up and about. He's back to winner there, hasn't he?
We love Paolo. I don't understand a word in that sentence except Harry Mackay.
I've got to say, Bonucci and Chiellini are tighter than Terry at the bar. I'll tell you. Like the last time Terry put his hand in his wallet, bats flew out, and that's what they're like defensively. So I mean, I agree. If we can get a bit of Italian defensive flair, wouldn't mind that at old Carlton.
Just Italian defensive discipline as well. I mean, it's just
they froth defense as well. The Italians, they absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's been their staple. It's been their staple mark for a long time. Now, guys, I've got to divulge something. Okay, so a few weeks ago, there was a bit of Kool-Aid talk, and there's happy Riley and there's realistic Riley. I try to keep realistic Riley out there as much as possible. And one of those moments were basically people saying there's still a chance of finals. This was before the West Coast game, and then we lost. And I said to someone, if we make the finals, I will live on Blue and Broad Saturdays. I will eat my undies. Now, after last Thursday's result, an optimist Riley in me, I shouldn't be worried, should I, that I'm going to be eating some pieces of fabric.
No, look, Riley, I really don't think you need to be worried, but make the case. Make the case.
I don't think I will be. I mean, we've just all done ladder predictors, and we've been listening to our great man Joe Adamo screaming 12 and 10 for the last week. It's something we all want. So I'm just putting it out there. I said this everywhere. If we somehow make finals, I will be eating my undies live on here. But I don't think I have to worry. Let's just focus on tonight. Pommy, you gave your preview and prediction yesterday. Just for the audience that missed it, what do you think's going to happen? Have you got a margin and a Carlton going to win 2 in a row, and we're going to drink a little bit of the Kool-Aid tonight?
Well, I mean, it's always nice to drink a bit of Kool-Aid, eh? We had a week off from Angry Pom. I've become a bit of a meme this year, so it was nice to have a bit of a break. As for this week, I see a Carlton win. Do I back it with any confidence? I don't think I've been confident since round 2, but I mean, I hope we do, because this has got a bit of Adelaide last year about it, hasn't it? Richmond have kind of opened the door for us with the finals talk. It's kind of opened there. So it's going to be interesting to see how this team respond, because we saw against Adelaide, Carlton last year were more focused on giving Bryce Gibbs a send-off, because we all love Bryce Gibbs because he dicked us to go back to Adelaide. So can they do it this week? They've got a second chance. That door's open. It's really important for me that they believe they can play finals. Whether we do or not, they need to believe it and finish the year strong. And who knows, we could be sat here final round, you eating your kegs.
I hope I am, sincerely. I mean, I've got a comment in here from Stephen saying, I hope you need to get a pair of edibles. I agree as well, because otherwise, it's just gonna it's heading into a very interesting time for us. And the Aussie. One more thing before we let you go, Pom. We'll start with Leck on this. The comments from Teague with the review on the presser on Thursday. He was honest. So I found it a little interesting. Did you manage to watch the presser, Leck, and what did you think of it all?
Look, I saw the quotes. Honestly, at this point, whenever Teague starts talking in his pressers, I just sort of zone out and black out. Like it's all just talk. I don't read anything into pretty much anything the club publicly says, except that they're releasing sleeved Guernseys. So get in, we've got our names on the list. Get in now. Years of pestering them week after week after week, they've finally decided to put it out. So thank you to Puma and Carlton. They're going to be available soon. Get in onto their website and order them. I don't know why I'm plugging the website. I just have nothing to say that's super positive on Teague at this present time.
I'm with you. I think, Yeah, Tom Brown said it the other day, and whatever you think of Tom Brown as a reporter, it logically sort of makes sense. He's this period of time is almost a reassessment of David Teague with the review, and I know it's a distraction. I think last week's performance against Adelaide was more. The second quarter was great, but again, a lot of the game was individuals winning it for us. I didn't see it as a massively four-quarter team performance, and all our wins this year, except probably, to be honest, in a sense, the Fremantle game, it was individuals just dragging us over. Pom, we know your love of David Teague, the choo-choo-choo train David Teague. What did you think of the presser?
I mean, we might not be very good on field at times, but one thing we do excel at is our ability to find a witty catchphrase to use on camera. There was two things that struck me. The anytime, anywhere, David Teague thinking he was James Bond. And the second one, which really did, I think this got missed because the saying anytime, anywhere is so balmy. It's straight out of an 80s TV show, innit? All it needed was a little bit of, don't you forget about me, as he said it. But he said against Adelaide, he thought defensively we were really good. And I don't know what game he watched, but I mean, third and fourth quarter, Essendon walked in easier into our inside 50 than the Germans did post the Battle of the Somme. So, I mean, it's one of them that I don't quite understand. David Teague, for me, honestly, every time he speaks, like I uninstall Wayne's World off my hard drive. Like he's ruined Wayne's World for me, one of my favourite movies, and he invariably ruins my weekend. I mean, absolute garbage. It was confirmed as well. Interesting, just side note about how bad Carlton are at PR. It was confirmed by the wonderful Twitter group Carlton Blues News that your theory, we had this theory that Williamson, it said his kicking and positioning wasn't AFL standard, and then he was picked, and then they removed that quote from O'Keefe. I mean, unfortunately, you can't believe a word that Carlton say anymore. Even like with the Cripps contract, I believe he signed on less. But the problem is because McClure and Brown are saying he hasn't. Do you fully believe the club? Do you fully believe? Honestly, this club tell better stories than Willy Wonka.
Pom, if you're going to believe the VFL write-ups, you'd think Lockie O'Brien's the next JJ listed medalist in a team that's getting smashed by a club that barely exists. So you just can't believe those write-ups. I just find the fact that you remove that quote, just like die by your sword. Like for me, I think that shows a greater culture of where we are as a football institution. If we're having to delete direct quotes from coaches because it might vilify the selection. Yeah. I mean, there's a great case in point for Pavlich, isn't it, on the review, like when he's ringing through. So hopefully on his telephone call, he can let them know. Well, they should have just kept it up there, selected him and go, look, we know he wasn't up to the standard. We're throwing him in because he's the next best available at the half-back line. It's his time to prove himself. I think it's so simply solved and set it as a challenge, but that's not what we do.
Yeah, I think I was pretty strong on that theory, and I swear black and blue. That's what I saw. Pom, enjoy your date with the lovely Zoe. Let's hope we have a good night tonight. Make sure everyone gets on the watch along tonight, 7:30 p.m. Pom.
It is indeed. You'll get to see me descend into minor chaos as we go through all the emotions on the watch along. You'll see me drink Kool-Aid, and then you see me hit reality juice.
We love the is the reality juice the pickle juice they talk about in the AFL so often?
I mean, it tastes more like cow dung, to be honest.
Enjoy your night, mate. I'm sure we'll speak during the day.
Cheers. Have a great night. Cheers, boys.
Cheers, mate.
What a man.
For that guy. You can't love him. I should have shouted him out. He's also the commissioner of the same fantasy league we're both in.
He is. He does a fantastic job.
Good old Whitby Settlers. Next guy we're bringing in, he's from Thailand. I don't know if he's still in full lockdown or not. So whilst it is 17 degrees, pissing rain, and just ugly conditions in Brisbane, I don't know what it's like in Melbourne. He will complain. It's a stinking hot 31 degrees, probably at 6:30 in the morning. Joe, can you hear us, mate?
Yeah, can hear you. Can you hear me?
Mate, I can hear you loud and clear. How's everything in Thailand?
You are right. It is we're in heavy lockdown, apparently. Ooh. So I went to a bar last night that was not open, right? only in Thailand, and it was filled with police who were making sure that we weren't drinking, right? And it's only 28 this morning, Riley. So last night I drank a lot of Carlton Kool-Aid in the form of Negronis.
Oh, so, we always drink Kool-Aid, mate.
So after my fourth Negroni, I had us winning by 10 goals.
Oh, Jesus.
I started out that we were losing by 4. No, 10 goals. No. And then I woke up and watched the Italian football team, and I thought, I think we might lose.
Oh, that's just the spectrum of Carlton fans. We go from we're winning by 10 goals. It was I think my emotions last Sunday were in the first quarter, sack Teague, sack everyone. To the second quarter, we're going to make a late charge for finals because we kicked 8 in a row. Then halfway during the last, I'm like, what the fuck are we doing? Why are we folding so far back? You want to kill us.
Do you know that only Carlton could do that? So no other team would do that. You know, if you followed another team, they'd either be shit for 4 quarters or really good for 4 quarters, but not Carlton. They've got to give you all emotions from, oh God, I hate this club, to we're going to win the flag.
You know what I've found worrying is that all last year we complained that we were, we'd get a run going, then they'd get a run against us, and we just hold on to a win. And this year we've been so bad that it happened last week, and we're happy about it. We're like, oh, thank God we got a run on it, just held on by our teeth. I hope we win by 10 goals.
If you think about it, we've played about 3 good quarters all year. How many games have we had? 14 games? What's that? Nearly 60 quarters. So I think I probably could count on one hand the quarters that you'd probably say, yeah, they were acceptable or really gave you a bit of confidence about. I hate using that R word, the rebuild. I don't believe in rebuilds.
No. I think to go even further than that, I think in the entire David Teague tenure, we've played 1 full game.
Yeah.
1. And that was against the Western Bulldogs last year. That's the only game where we have played a full game of football, and you can say, yep, that was outstanding. And the annoyingly shit thing is it just shows how good we can be. Like, that is it. Does that annoy you like it annoys me? Like it's just fucking, it kills me.
Mate, we've won, 5 games for the year. And like you said, we've played 3 good quarters. So we've somehow won 5 games in less quarters than wins. So, and I've said it the whole time, I think the list, and I know we get a lot of shit from people who don't know the list very well, but I think the list is good, and there's plenty of talent, and it's all there. It just needs to be operated correctly.
Yeah,
and we see that
play in the right position. Play someone in their right position. Like we've destroyed SPS. I mean, he showed what he could do in the first 2 quarters last week. Then he went into his shell a bit. I don't know if it was tank or confidence or just the whole team, but he's not a defender. But no, let's persist. Let's get him experience in the back pocket and really destroy him. And same with Dow, Lockie O'Brien. Yeah, I mean, if I read same with I don't get to see the VFL. You guys probably get to see and hear a lot more. But Carroll and Honey, I read all the time. These guys are ripping it up, and all the supporters put them in, and then in Mark Murphy, Levi Casbolt, out Dow, Petrevsky. So it's just like a hymn book. Turn to page 37. Yes, in Casbolt, out Dow.
Lexi, you just you've touched on it, Joe. So I'd love your opinion on this because I know we've talked a little bit about it. And this is going away from today's game a little bit, but you talked about the VFL, and he was not good on the weekend at all, Lockie O'Brien. Are his papers sealed, do you think, for Carlton? Yeah. We'll start with you, mate. We'll start with you, Alexi.
I mean, it feels like they are. He's, to me, playing like someone who knows he probably doesn't have much of a career left or much of a future left. And even the write-ups, like most weeks they go, oh, he ran his lines really well. He spread the ground and did his role. But even last week, they're like, he didn't even do that. So it really sucks because we put so much time and effort into him initially, and it just hasn't. He doesn't have the confidence. I don't know what it is. I'm sure he's one of those players that will, play a VFL next year or in a couple of years, or even go back to like a lower division and dominate every week, because I'm sure he still has the skill set, but he just seemingly is playing like someone who doesn't care or doesn't want to be there or knows that he's not going to be there. But to be fair, I said the same thing about SBS a few weeks ago, and he came back into the senior side and at least showed something.
He did. You go, Joe.
No, sorry. You go, Riley.
No, I was just going to say, he sort of. I think the Prendercast, Ian Prendercast, another great Carlton show. Have a listen to them if you ever get the opportunity. Some really good lads over there. They mentioned it a few weeks ago after the West Coast loss. It's like, whatever you think of him, Lockie O'Brien's one of the only blokes in the side that's genuine team first, gets around everybody, does everything for the team. So it's a real shame to see how it's panned out, because I think in 2018 he got a few games on the Bolt. He got some games on the Bolt, and he was showing stuff. 2019 he started taking some steps forward, especially even when Teague took over. I remember that game against Fremantle. He was pretty solid. He ran the lines, and we thought, shit, we might have a bit of a player here. He's played 2 games since. And he's fallen completely out of favour. It's just I don't know. Joe, do you see anything for him? Could he be one of those players that's just going to be better at another club, like outside of VFL or lower league level? Do you think another club might take a chance on him, because they haven't seen much of him over the last couple of years?
Look, to be honest, because I haven't seen him play a lot, right? So I don't know if he's a good footballer. I don't know if he's a bad footballer. I mean, I didn't even see him where did he play? Did he play at the Geelong Falcons, or was he at Bendigo Pioneers? I think he and Paddy Dow played together, but he got really
Bendigo
big
Pioneers.
Yeah, he got really big raps. I've got relatives in Bendigo, and they said to me, "Oh, gee, you picked up a really good one there in Lockie O'Brien. He's team orientated, and he'll listen to the coach, and he'll do whatever it is, to make it." And then I look at him and I go, he's done the exact opposite. And I don't know if he got his confidence destroyed in the early years under Brendan Bolton and the early parts of David Teague. I don't know if he sort of sit there and thinks, like I said, when we see the same ins and the same outs, and he's probably like, well, I'm never going to get a go here, no matter what I do in the VFL. So he's probably likely to get delisted, probably get rookie listed by another club and dominate. That's probably that always happens with our fringe players. We don't develop them; they go somewhere else and then they dominate. But I mean, is he worth? I don't like gifting players games. Right, I'm really anti, because I see on these websites all the time, oh, play Honey, play Carroll, play Kemp, play the Merkin. He's played 15 minutes of football in his life, and all these people think he's going to be our next ruckman. So I really don't like gifting players, but maybe, I mean, if we lose today, and realistically, we can't play. I mean, we can play finals mathematically. But as Carlton supporters, we realistically sit back and think, do we deserve it? We'll only be there to make up the numbers. Maybe he's worth playing on an interchange and go, right, you got 5 or 6 weeks. I think one of the other guys in that messenger group that we have, Riley, show me why I should. I think Pommy says it all the time. Show me why I should put your name on the check for next year. Give me a reason. and then let's see. Because I think, we as supporters are very critical. Everyone says, oh, this bloke's not good enough. His heart's not in it. He'll never. I mean, you've got to be good to get drafted, right? There's a lot of guys that run around in the TAC Cup and, in country Victoria and even in Queensland and wherever, who are good footballers, right? So I remember listening to Matt Rendell. He said, to get drafted, you actually have to have talent, except for Levi Casbolt. But he obviously has it. So I don't know. Football. Look, I'm a lot older than you guys. I'm nearly 60, and I've watched a lot of football, and I've been around a lot of football clubs when I was in Australia. Football is 95% below the shoulders. 95% above the shoulders. It's like if you can think and you have confidence. I mean, let's face it, they're all the same. It's like tennis. If you put all the tennis players in a room, you would say that the difference between the number 1 and the number 100 is not skill, it's belief, right? And then they've got confidence and they believe in their ability, whereas the guy at number 100, he struggles in with his 3 rackets that he strung last night. He's probably slept in the back of a car, whereas, you've got Rafael Nadal staying at the Hyatt with, getting massages from pretty girls and some other lucky stringing his bloody strings. And do you know what I mean? So I think he's just lost it up top. I really do. And I'm talking from, a long way away and not having watched him play. So what he went number 10?
Yeah, pick 10.
So he must have shown someone something. I mean, I know people have bagged our recruiting, but you can't. I mean, to pick someone at number 10, you can't be that bad. I mean, I don't know who went before him, and I don't know who went after him. I think that's the draft of Adam Chero, isn't it?
He went pick 5.
Yeah, but I don't know who went after Lockie O'Brien, but I'd be interested to go back and have a look at one of those. Okay, well, who went after him?
So directly after was Aiden Bonner, who's a fringe player who's been traded to North or moved to North. Darcy Fogarty, who hip and shouldered Weeders in the spine last week. The only players of note after him in that sort of top 20, Zach Bailey at 15, I think is a really good player. He's a good player. Jack Higgins has had some moments. Starcevic for Brisbane's a good defender. It's not like player. There's not like there was heaps of locks, Yeah.
I think after that though, I think the thing is you look at that draft, and I'm just trying to sort of remember correctly, but it's even the picks in the 30s and the 40s, which sort of and every club makes that mistake. But you have guys like James Warple. He was picked 45. I'm pretty sure he was in that draft. I think Oscar Allen as well. He went after Dow at the very least and O'Brien. So
Tim Kelly at 24. It's a crapshoot. But you're right, Joe. Yeah. They all have talent. Like they can all play the game. He's got a good left peg on him. Like he should be able to run all day and all night on that wing. And like I'm looking at the team we've named for the game, and we've named Nunes and Curnow on the wing. And I don't know if both of them, I think one of them will be at the club next year. I don't know if both of them will be at the club next year, but I'm the same. I would have done the same thing. Here's 5 games. Show us what you can do. They've done it with, it appears that they've done it with Dow and Kennedy, and Dow had his best game of his career last week. You'd have to say, and Matt Kennedy is a bloke who you probably thought was not going to be on an AFL list next year. And if he keeps playing the way he's playing, you've got to keep him.
Yeah, he's a rookie at the moment, isn't he?
Yeah, Kennedy's a rookie. So he's come in, he's played like a man possessed. Before we let you go, Joe, prediction for tonight. I know we've gone from 4-goal loss, 10 goals. What do you think is going to happen, mate?
I've sobered up. My heart says Carlton, right? I can never tip against us. Even if we're on the bottom of the ladder and we're playing, I always have this faint glimmer of hope that someone's going to do something. Realistically, I think it's going to be a really close. I don't know what the weather is like in Melbourne, so I don't know if they're predicting rain or if it's going to be sunny or whatever. I think they may be a little too quick for us in the open because we are really bad at defending the corridor, and they love They love moving the ball quickly through the corridor. So if we can get some defensive structures, and I saw one of your readers or subscribers mentioning those Italian defenders, if we could get them in, if we can close the corridor, we'll win.
Yeah.
If we play our normal, don't give a shit and let's leave it for someone else, I think it'll be another honourable 4-goal loss.
So all we have to do is play like a different club, or something.
That's all we have to do. Just play like Carlton in the 90s, lads.
Just don't play like you've played the last 14 games. No, but you saw last week they had glimpses of where they defended the centre, right? Obviously, sorry, I know we're going over. Obviously, his game plan is not working, right? Or the players don't understand it. It may be a fantastic game plan, but I think our players are sort of sitting there scratching their head going, well, we don't know what he wants to do. At worst, go man on man, right? When we don't have the ball. At worst, you can't do worse than that. So many times you see 4 or 5 of their bloody players running through the centre, and that's where Freo might kill us on the rebound. But look, let's hope. It's in Melbourne, so it's gone from an away game to basically a home game. I mean, I don't know.
We're gonna have a crowd there. We'll have a lot of noise.
Yeah. So the suns and the moons have all aligned for us to win. Now the players have just got to play a different game. Simple.
Just be a different club. Always good having you on, Joe, mate. I'm sure we'll speak during the week. Have a good one. Enjoy hard lockdown in a bar somewhere.
Yeah, I will tonight. I'm going there for dinner. All right. See you guys.
He's an interesting fella from Thailand. Imagine that hard lockdown in Australia is we're a very compliant population, really. Whatever you think of it, we are a very compliant.
Oh yeah. It's too hard to be non-compliant. They're like, go inside. Like, yeah, all right, just fucking leave me alone. All right, I'll go inside.
Yeah, exactly. Leave me alone. But it's just money talks, I guess. It would appear from what he was saying.
Should we mention that the reserves added a couple of players to their list?
We should. I saw that story during the week. Do you know much about them?
Nothing. I know. I think Luke Goetz, wasn't he on the Bulldogs list at one point? And David Handley will join the club. So let me. Goetz will join the Carlton from Essendon Reserves in Bell Park, formerly playing for the Western Bulldogs in the AFL. So if I'm remembering correctly, he might have been one of their pre-season or mid-season recruits last year or the year before. Whatever it is. It's good to see a couple of players come into the Blues reserves. It's
good for opportunity. I mean, you actually that's another baffling one, I reckon, because the reserves team, you sort of look at who's there, right? You've got even guys like Riley Stoddart who can play. That was a shock. He was delisted from Sydney, and he can play footy. Cody Hurst, he was taken in a mid-season draft a couple of years ago, again from Sydney. So there's players in there. It's just not working. Like the last, they started the season all right. Like they won 2 of their first 3, and then ever since then, I think they had 1 win against Port Melbourne 2 weeks ago, and then they did okay against Footscray, who are undefeated, but they got pantsed by Box Hill. They lost to a side that is, we don't know how they exist at the moment. Good on them. More than anything else, good on the Bull Ants. It's great to see. It's great to see them get their first win. Every Carlton person wishes them well. But yeah, it's just.
It was their grand final, right? They had circled that game all year and said, "We're not losing that. We are not losing that game," and they didn't. They didn't just win; they smashed us.
Yeah, I think and I can sort of say this being around certainly the NEFL system, and to an extent VFL is talked a lot, but the AFL clubs treat it very differently to what the VFL clubs do for obvious reasons. But they just don't, there's not as much emphasis on winning at all costs, put it that way. It's which is fair enough because your main asset's your AFL side. But it's just what it is. Now, But last guest of the day, he is the greatest MC, as I always introduce him, this side of Craig Willis. He's got an effervescent smile, and his voice he's got a very nice tone to his voice. Of course, I speak of the great man Vince Lochisano. he always brings it home for us, mate.
G'day, Riley.
We got a win
Alexi, how
last
are
week,
you?
barely.
How are you, mate?
Mate, I'm great. I'm especially good because I've had another couple of hours since getting up early to watch Italy beat Belgium. So I'm still in the dressing gown, as you can see.
I was going to say, is that like a dressing gown velvet sort of a getup? Is that what they give life members of the club these days?
No, they didn't give me this for my life membership, but this is my Hugh Hefner impersonation. But anyway, great to see you guys, and great show.
Thank you. What do you think?
You got to stop introducing me like that, because that's an insult to Craig Willis, whose dulcet tones are unmatchable.
Oh, yes, but yours are very good as well. You help out a lot of the Carlton, people with their functions and that. So that's where you're very. I'll
never forget going to Sydney once many years ago. Had a function for I think it was Save the Children Foundation, and Craig was the MC, and I was there as the auctioneer. And it was time to introduce me as the auctioneer to do the auctions. And he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, one of the world's finest auctioneers couldn't be with us here this evening, so instead we've got Vince Lochisano." Here I was thinking he's going to introduce me as one of the world's finest auctioneers, and he just let me down like a lead balloon. Anyway.
What a band.
Yeah, so Carlton Fremantle. I'm looking forward to going to this game tonight, and it's going to be all of 12 degrees top temperature here today in Melbourne, and it's going to be cold and wintry, and I don't think it's going to be a packed house, that's for sure. Even with 25% capacity, I don't think they're even going to get to 25,000. But well, we'll see what happens. But it's going to be a cold, wintry night, and whoever plays the conditions better might just come out on top.
Yeah, it's never a good sign when they start giving away free tickets on Facebook. I started getting some ads today saying, "Hey, grab your free Carlton tickets for today." I was like, "I've already bought some." So
the club's been giving away free tickets to games against interstate teams for years now, when they don't expect a big crowd, especially at Dockland Stadium. But I haven't seen that.
I'm a sucker paying my membership every year. What a sucker!
Yeah. Well, I couldn't believe I was given an email yesterday for my tickets saying that I could go. I wasn't expecting that because it's a Carlton away game. But then again, you can't expect Fremantle's members to be all travelling over here, can you? So
all two of them will be there.
They've got to try and fill it up somehow, so they might as well let the Carlton members in.
Exactly right. I mean, technically, we did lose a home game to West Coast. So, I mean, there's a few people that have been saying, if you're going to let anyone in, although I will admit, I thought they were stiffed a little bit, that playing at GMHBA, but then at the same time, fuck Fremantle. They win all the time. Like, seriously, that all the whinging that Simon Garlick has done during the week, and all the whinging that, they did last year, and then when they basically suck it up in the Perth hub, it's like, they're just a club that, for whatever reason, I just don't like Fremantle. Like they are the epitome, honestly, of irrelevancy. They are the epitome. They don't have history to fall back on. The only thing associated with Fremantle that's got history to fall back on is East Fremantle in the waffle. That's about it. Like the actual Dockers, they're just media outside of a couple of years under, one season under Mark Harvey, a couple of seasons under Chris Connolly, and then a few years under Ross Lyon. They're just largely irrelevant. So that's my speech for the morning.
Geez, I tell you what, you're going hard on a club that's only been going for 26 years and hasn't won a thing.
Yeah, exactly right. I could do what I like.
Fair enough. He was starting to sound like a former Carlton president who was starting to have a go at other clubs for their lack of success and lack of relevance. But anyway,
yeah, it's all right. I mean, Freo is Freo. I mean, they might give us Adam Cherr at the end of the year, so I guess I should play nice until then.
Well, we'll see what happens there. We'll probably have Chera play a best on the ground performance today, and we'll end up offering him a 7-year deal at $1 million a year or something.
We do love players that play well against us. We love players that play well.
Yeah, the last player that did that was Mitch McGovern in Fremantle about 4 years ago.
Yeah, so Mitch McGovern, he was one of them. We've had a few over the journey. I mean, Zach Williams has typically played well against us with GW. Admittedly, Zach Williams, he will come through. I mean, I'm a Zach Williams fan.
There's the answer to your recruiting question from before when you said, I think Joe was on there saying, someone must have seen something in Lockie O'Brien. Well, we tend to recruit players from other clubs when they play well against us. So the recruiters clearly have only just watched their own games.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anyway, I shouldn't keep taking the piss out of everyone that works at that club.
No, not too. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. What did you think? I asked Pommy before. We've talked about the review, you and I, extensively, Vince. What did you think of the presser comments from Teague surrounding it on Thursday?
I don't know that I can really add too much, Riley. I mean, I think the less he says, the better. I think anyone in his position is going to be probably advised to, make it all positive, and it's a good thing, and we're going to learn from it, and whatever comes out of it, we'll take the recommendations, or, we'll learn the lessons, etc., etc., etc. I think deep down he's got to be absolutely crapping himself about his own position. And I know we won last week. For personal reasons, I couldn't be at the game and I couldn't watch the game, but I've since seen the game, and look, I think it masks over a lot of cracks what happened last week. And I think, yes, a win's a win, and it's always nice to see a W in the W column for a change. But we only just held on to a game that we should have won by. Once we got on top in that first half, we should have run away with that match. I just can't understand why we went back into our shells. Mind you, they probably should have had a 3 or 4 goal lead at quarter time. But once we were up that much at half time, I thought we should have taken advantage of that situation. And I think the air was let out of our tyres a little bit as supporters in the second half of that game. And I don't think it was a very good advertisement for Teague's game plan or his coaching. So there are still question marks that are hovering over him and his game plan and his selection at the selection table and the way he positions players on the field. And I still wonder what's going to come out of the review from that point of view. So if we can continue to win along the way between now and the end of the season, still grab our 3 or 4 victories, I think he'll probably survive. Yeah. And they may just bolster up his support base with assistant coaches and other people around him. But if we start losing consistently and start losing by bigger margins, because we've only lost by mostly, in the 16 to, I think the difference is 16 to 36 points in all of our losses. Our 9 losses range from 16 to 36 points. So we haven't been flogged, but if we start losing by more than that 6-goal margin and start losing by 8 and 10 and 12 goals or more, I think he's in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in other words, I'm saying the jury is still out, and I don't know if I've answered your question about the press conference and what have you, but I think it's like a lot of things that come out of this football club, smoke and mirrors. You'll hear me say a lot about smoke and mirrors when it comes to what comes out of the footy club. And it could even be as much as, media releases and emails that come out of the club during the week, smoke and mirrors. Just like the Patrick Cripps 6-year contract that was apparently meant to see him taking a big pay cut? Well, when you average it over the 6 years, as I told you in my mail last week, it's more than likely going to come out to close to $1 million a year. That's hardly a pay cut.
Well, it's probably a pay cut from what we first offered him, which was probably $2 million a year.
Yeah, it's a fair point.
I don't think so.
I mean, 18 months ago, this was a point that was made by someone. If we got the contract done 18 months ago, it's probably $1.3, $1.4 million. Really, if you were doing it on 20, if you gave him a contract at the end of 2019 when he just won the MVP, he was top 3 of the Brownlow. You're going to make him captain. It's probably over $1 million. I mean, we can talk about this contract a million times. Let's actually talk about it a little bit, and not so much the monetary value. We talked about this a bit last week, Vince.
By the way, I just want to make a point.
Yeah,
I've got no issue with Patrick Cripps earning his $1 million a year at all. I say good luck to him. He's carried our team for a number of years. Whatever he was able to negotiate with his manager, good luck to him. Yeah. And I'd rather pay him big money and give him a 6-year deal than some of the other recruits we've taken from other clubs over the years. But there's no criticism of him. I think he's been tremendous.
He has. Dog, what do you consider a success for Cripps at the end of the 6 years? Let's assume he gets there. That's probably the first mark he gets there. But what do you consider as a success?
It's a good question. We had this back and forth a bit the other day. I'll start by saying this. I'm happy that they've signed him. I know statistically, even though he's averaging exactly what he's averaged across his entire career, he's not the player he was, and I know the game might be moving away, blah, blah, blah. I get all the points that in 6 years, maybe he can barely walk. I understand all that, but I am happy that they've signed our captain, who's a very good player, to stay at the club. And imagine if he went somewhere else. That's what I kept a lot of Carlton fans were having a crack at me because I was positive about the signing. And I just kept saying, what would you rather? Would you rather that he was playing for another club? Would you rather that we, if he told us he didn't want to be there and we had to trade him for a first round pick or whatever and we get some speculative, end of the draft pick? Like, what do you actually want? Because everyone seems happy that he's here, but I guess they're worried about how much money. Don't worry about that. No. He's a good player and he's staying at the football club. Yep. Success, obviously, there's only one measure of success in the AFL ultimately, and that's a premiership. I just want him to have some final success. I want him to be a part of a club that is playing finals and can win some. And if we can win a flag in the next 6 years, I'd be, I'll be there. I'll run onto the ground. I'll streak. I'll do all that stuff. I'll be there.
Well, I was just going to say, to me, I mean, if you're going to ask what's the measure of success at the end of the 6 years, ultimately it's got to be holding up a premiership cup, doesn't it? Yeah. I mean, anything short of that, and what are we all here for? Surely it's got to be the goal of any contract with any person, especially a long-term contract like that. And I'm sure that Patrick would happily give back a couple of hundred G's to see himself holding the Premiership Cup on the last Saturday in September. And it'll be a tremendous thing to see.
Agreed,
I wonder whether he'll be the only captain next year. Whether we'll continue with this co-captain seems to be another question.
I've got a feeling he will. I mean, just before we get final predictions, I think Sam Doherty's a bloke that I just feel so sorry for. I mean, the run he has had in the last 4 years, look, 2 knees. Right? He's then, he had the cancer scare last year. And he's done a syndesmosis injury now that he's done in the game, fair enough, but he wasn't. But in the weeks prior, he just looked a shell of himself. I just think it's probably going to be best for him if he just starts to focus on his foot. Leadership group, sure. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, he's a smart player, but I just think he needs to focus on his footy and just, for me, ultimately the decision will be made between the club and Sam. I've got a feeling Cripps will be sole captain, but we just all want to see Doc, get close fully to what he was. And I know, Dog, you were saying a few weeks ago, he started getting closer offensively to it. But I think that's all we want, because you will not find too many people that are bigger Sam Doherty fans than myself. But we knew what we had before he did the knees. That 2017 season, it was just like, whoa.
Well,
This
all
bloke
Australian.
is
He was
football.
a sensational player that year before when he was all Australian, and yeah, he's been through a very rough trot. And again, for the rest of this season, it appears that he's going to be missing from the team due to injury. But he's a courageous player. He'll keep fighting back. I'm sure he'll fight his way back into the team and do everything he can to find his form again. I think all of us just want to see him play well. And whether he's got the captaincy or co-captaincy or whether he goes back to being a vice-captain or, in fact, similar to Cade Simpson, just step away from all of those leadership roles and just show the leadership on the ground. I think what we want to see is a fit, healthy and informed Sam Docherty taking his place in the team, whether it's on the wing or on the back line, and playing well and playing confidently and hopefully one day part of a premiership side.
Yeah. Look, I was just going to say he's not going to play the rest of this year. He'll be 28 next year. He's still got plenty of time to have play some very good footy for us. So it's hard when you don't see him for so long, but at 28 he should still be, in his peak, and I think he's going to play a role where he'll be able to excel. So I'm still very high on Sam Docherty.
Yeah, me too. Yep. He's and any time you've met him as well, whether it's open training or not, he's an impressive individual. So he's one that
he's a great guy. I happen to know him and his wife Natalie, and beautiful people. What can you say?
He's one
individuals.
He's really one that you can get behind. Yeah. Vince.
Yes.
Predictions and your final word for the day. What are we thinking, my friend?
Well, I hate to rain on your parade, but and I know we beat them by 45 points earlier this year. So don't ask me why. I've got not a lot of logic behind this, but I actually don't think we're going to win tonight. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong for one main reason, is because Sam Walsh had his 21st birthday yesterday, and I think it'll be a nice way for him to celebrate, seeing they couldn't do it for him when he played his 50th game against Sydney. So, from that point of view, I hope we win as well. But, a few teams above us on the ladder are starting to falter. And if we happen to get a win, there's some sort of sneaky chance, aren't we? Vincent. I just thought I'd tease you a bit like Carlton teases you every year. Look, I don't think we're going to win. I think we'll probably lose by about... I'll do the lower end of the losing scale, 16 points. There you go. David Mundy's number. I think I think the outs are key outs. There's a lot of players missing from our starting 22 that would otherwise be in our 22. I think structurally we're very vulnerable, and I think Fremantle have improved since round 5 or 4, whenever we played them last. I think it might have been round 4 on Easter Sunday. So I think they've improved, and I think they'll want to redeem themselves for the loss that they had against us earlier in the year. Nathan Fyfe's a big in, and he didn't play last time. Mind you, I think Taberner's a big out for them too, so they're going to have to cover that. The selection integrity issue again surfaces Riley with Williamson. And I guess Casbolt 2 weeks ago played a pretty good game against Port Melbourne, then got suspended for a week, and now he's straight back into the seniors. So I can only see that as a structural thing, that we need some help for the Conning and the ruck. And they obviously didn't really succeed with their tactics last week with the Conning and Silvani. So I think that's the main reason for Casbolt coming back. But as much as I want to see us win, and I'll be out there cheering for us like anyone else tonight, I'm not going there with a lot of high expectations, my friends. So Fremantle, this is the last word. Fremantle by 16 points, and I hope I'm wrong. Just like Joe, I've got Carlton in the heart. I've got Carlton in the heart, but my head tells me otherwise. And a lot of years of experience tells me otherwise.
But anyway, It's tough, Riley, because I'm a notoriously terrible tipper. I miss about 18 tips a season because I tip the Blues every week. You can always talk yourself into it. Look, I looked at all the numbers. I think we match up pretty similarly to each other. I think we'll win by about 7 points. I'm going to say 8 points. I hope it's not another after the goal or on the siren buzzer beater that we have to do it. I think it'll be close, 8 points. I think we're going to do similar to last week. I think we're going to have a run where we break through the middle, but clubs can do that to us just as easily. So I think it's going to be pretty back and forth. And look, it's going to be another one of those games where we need individual brilliance to carry us across. So Sam Walsh, we need 40 out of you. Harry, we need 5 out of you, and we need to find a couple of goals somewhere else.
Isn't it sad though that we need to see, almost personal best performances out of 3 or 4 of our best players to beat a side like Fremantle, for goodness sake, who Riley happened to jump into at the start of this conversation like they were nothing. Anyway,
I'll make sure if there's ever a Fremantle abroad, I'll make sure to jump on there.
I'll make one other prediction, by the way. My other prediction is that now that Italy's won this morning, I think England will beat Ukraine tomorrow morning, and they'll both win their semi-finals, and hopefully we see an Italy versus England final in the Euro 2020.
That would get a fair few Carlton people up and about, actually.
Oh yeah, Lygon Street will all of a sudden come alive.
Yeah.
In and amongst all the Felice signs along Lygon Street, of which every second shop's got a Felice sign on it, thanks to our state government. But don't get me started. All the lockdowns have killed off just about every second small business in the whole of Melbourne. Anyway, apart from that, we've still got 25% capacity at the MCG tonight. So, hallelujah, we should rejoice.
We should. For me,
thanks to Victoria.
Thanks to Victoria. I had a little bit of Kool-Aid this morning. So I'm gonna go.
I can tell you've had the Kool-Aid this morning. You've got that big grin on your face.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit up and about. I just get a sense of confidence recently when we play the Wharfies. So Carlton will win tonight.
Yes.
By 22.
By 22.
By 22, and I will. And after that match, because GWS are going to lose today at the MCG, you're going to have about 50% of the Carlton members start doing ladder predictors, as we all do at this time of year, because we'll be a game out of the 8, and we will look forward to Geelong. On that note, fellas, it has been great. Thank you, Vince. Dog.
Pleasure.
Truly wonderful to have you on, mate. It's co-hosting duties. It's last minute sort of call, but you've stepped in seamlessly. Thank you, mate.
You did a much better job than me last week, Lapdog.
Anytime, fellas. I love it. I'm here for the Blues. Here for the fans.
Go the mighty Blues.
Go Blues.